Hi, welcome. My name is Dale McCluskey, and on this video I'd like to take a couple minutes to talk about leash kinetics. And when I talk about leash kinetics, what I'm talking about is the effect of the use of the leash as a connection point and a tool to create relational change. Because basically what I show is the leash is basically an extension of how you think. So it follows the path of your mind. And so as an intervention tool and a way to create influence and leadership and a way to communicate, it's important to use the tool effectively. And so basically, as you're looking at or following along with how I'm interacting within the context of various interactions by way of, say, the leash walk, you'll see the leash, in order for it to be used effectively, it needs to be shorter or wrapped up, but at the same time the connection point between the collar itself, and this is kind of an important point here for you to use this in an effective way kinetically, when you're holding the leash and when you're walking with the dog, whether it's left or right side. That's the other thing. It doesn't matter what side you pick. Pick the side to walk your dog that's the most comfortable for you. And by communicating and just leading that way, the dog will line up. Okay, it'll follow. Even if, say, your spouse or someone else walks the dog on an opposite side than you do, it doesn't matter. Just think rightly, and the dog will follow. So that's very important. Just clarity of mind. But as you're holding the leash, and as you're walking your dog, again, I encourage people to get to a point to walk the dog while holding the leash just in one hand. Now, of course, at first, you may feel like you need to anchor it, okay, with the other hand, and kind of use it in one hand as an anchor point because perhaps the dog's holding a lot of power, and you're afraid that you're going to get pulled off your feet. And that's okay at first because it's all about maintaining a good, confident state of mind. But eventually, the goal is for you to gain enough confidence so that you can start to walk the dog with the leash in one hand. And one of the reasons for this is so you're communicating at a really confident relational level, which is going to bring you in tune to how the dog's mind, the ebb and flow of the path the dog's mind is taking, because by holding it in one hand, okay, you're going to have a better sensation and feel as to how the mind shifts, okay? So that's why you want to transition over to holding it in one hand, because then as the mind's shifting, okay, as you're walking, you don't even have to be looking down. You can sense that shift from holding it in one hand, and then you're just going to be nudging accordingly and bringing the dog's decision-making process back into the follower script through little hey you moments. Okay, so that's what you're doing, because even as you're walking, you want to be doing that. But in accordance with that, okay, as you're creating little moments, is at the kinetic level, you need to be keeping probably about a 2-inch length or distance from the hook itself, okay, ideally. Because ultimately, if there's too much length here, it's going to be harder to generate kinetic energy, okay, because there's just too much length, and the dog, you'll get into more of a resistance mode, and it's harder to bring influence and communicate through the leash, okay, with too much length. So you want to bring it within a couple inches, and the idea here is, okay, against clarity of mind, is, again, just the leash is just like a paintbrush. The idea is to create these moments in such a way that it's actually generating slack on the lead. The dog is coming into the follower script beside you and is floating along within the heel position. Okay, that's very important. So, because again, if you're under a resistance, that means the dog is pushing. Okay, is straining against the boundaries of the follower script. Okay, and therefore, if that's happening, you need to perhaps the leash is a little bit too long. You need to make sure it's within the proper length so you can generate good kinetic energy, okay? And if the dog's doing that, you either need to start doing the circle method, Okay, to line it all up by using your whole body before you start walking straight lines with the walk, or you need to bring the dog back into the sit position, okay, so you can kind of set up the staging area to create some moments and halt the movement of the dog's mind, okay? You don't want the dog pushing the script that way. So, but again, the leash technique is very effective. It's very important, okay? The length of leash, okay? Now we want to wrap it up. And again, how I hold the leash is I'll keep a little bit of a hole through it so I can switch hands back and forth. You'll see me on my videos moving back and forth with my hands, okay? But again, by keeping a little bit of a kind of donut hole, it allows me to move my hands back and forth. Now, some people say they want to get, they'll say, oh, you can just get a short leash, okay? But again, I wouldn't recommend that because there's times you actually need some longer length of leash, depending on the situation and what's happening within these relational dynamics with the dog's level of say, resistance or what's going on. Sometimes you may have to generate some extra length here, okay, for various techniques, such as a method I call isolate dominance method. You go into my videos, I talk about that method and how you're using kind of the full length of the leash in order to bring influence over the dog if they're rolling on their back, okay? Or you may need to generate more length if there's certain types of challenge, because kinetically you'll need a little longer length so I can keep that challenge, okay, away from my body, and I can kinetically redirect it and then bring it back into the staging area and create another moment. So just be aware, or the come command, working that off a short leash before I go into a long line, okay? So ideally, I'd recommend just getting really comfortable and used to just being able to manipulate a normal length of leash. And because, like I said, there's times you're going to be wanting to use various lengths of it depending on what's happening at that time or what your goals are. So, but again, just to reiterate, kinetically, there's an ideal length here, just within 2.5 inches, and you want to kind of just play with that. But again, it's about clarity of mind. You want to really make sure you're thinking rightly. Okay, so you're absolutely, like what I'm doing the walk. You'll never see a dog's nose just push beyond the boundary lines of that heel position. If I'm working in intervention, which most of my interactions with dogs, quite honestly, are intervention. So I have to be thinking that way. If I have my own dog and the dog is within the context of the proper role, if the dog is balanced out, I'm in harmony, it's different. I mean, the dog could be out in front for some reason, okay, and that's a different context. That's not. But here, when we're looking at, or we need to create relational change. Position of the body is very important with the dog. Okay, you just can't just be thinking the same way as you're thinking because it's very mind and body is connected. That's why you need to be very conscious of where of being in tune to the body, because it's going to give you clues as to where the mind's going, and then when you see the separation levels, it'll start to make sense. So anyway, just something to be aware of with the leash technique. Okay, kinetics, very important. Smooth fluid technique. Thinking rightly, just maintaining a clear path and staying in the moment is very important. Something negative happens, or you consider negative, or whatever's going on, you got to let it go. You just got to release it. Okay, release it, let it go. Because if you hold on to that thinking process, the dog actually will feel it. It'll generate some weakness. Okay, because your psychology starts to you start going to a speed walk. Okay, so when you're doing this stuff, you have to train your mind. You got to really discipline your mind to just be thinking a certain way, and that way is just leadership, staying in the moment, always just focus on creating your moments. No matter what's going on, just generate another moment. Smooth fluid technique. That's really the secret, and you'll see results very, very fast. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.